Alright, I want to talk briefly about Kanban and what it is. It is a project management style that's usually used to keep teams in a constant cycle of development. It's focused on having a board and a couple of categories, and in each category you'll have a couple cards, and they'll move between them, usually from right to left. Typically the three categories of cards are to do, doing, and done. And for each of the tasks, it'll start in to do. Once someone's assigned to it, it'll go to doing. And once they've completed it, it'll go to done. And so in the typical structure, there'll be a lot of tasks in the to do. And each person will grab a couple tasks, and that'll be their projects for the day. And I'll move it to a doing task list, and when they're done, it'll move to a done list. And that way, each individual developer gets to choose what their tasks are for the day and what's a manageable load. What's interesting is between these three lists, as tasks move between them, you can actually graph how many are in each category in kind of a stacked chart. And you can use this chart to figure out where certain dead zones are. So like right here, if this is stagnating, the bottom one is always going to be the to do, and then it'll be doing, and then done. Right here, our to do is actually stagnating. Not a lot is moving out of it, or not a lot is being moved into it, but lots of it's being moved out. So what that usually means is that not a lot is transferring over, and that means that there's not a lot going into the to do. If that same thing was happening to the doing list right here, that means that not a lot of stuff is moving on, or not a lot of stuff is being moved in, which are both pretty bad for a constant development cycle, which is what Kanban focuses on. What's especially interesting about Kanban is there's no specified roles like in Agile or Scrum. There's no one who's in charge. It's very democratic, and each team member gets to contribute in the tasks that they're personally able to do. Obviously, everyone needs to contribute in a relatively equal way given to what their abilities are, but it allows them to choose their workload and, as a team, decide what's reasonable and what needs to get done and what's a priority. Of course, there's always going to be different styles and adaptations to different teams. And so for me, I actually have a slightly different style. I have 1 or 2 extra lanes. And so I have the typical 3, but I added 2 more. And so for me, I have epics, which go into to do, which go into doing, which goes to testing, which then goes to done. And so these 2 are what I added, because for epics, it makes one big block that's an epic, and it'll have a bunch of smaller tasks that are used to make that epic. And so that will feed out into what I need to do. And then for testing, once it's technically done, I also want to make sure it works. Because what if it doesn't? I might have some solution that really doesn't work. And that's when I really need to test make sure everything's working as normal. And then once it's done testing, then I actually call it done. And so this is kind of a 5-category structure. And it is a bit similar to what some businesses will do, because especially with software, especially if it's like a banking software or something that really needs to work, you can organize your code, your project, into epics. And once each epic is completed, you want to still have a working product with the new features that the epic adds. And then as you're working on it, you want to test the features. And that might go to a separate department. So that might just feed into an entirely different department's Kanban board. But for me, I'm just one person, so I'm every department. And so we'll clear this out here. And so the benefit of this structure is when I make an epic, I got my little list of things to do. It gets a title. It has a focus. It has a list of tasks. But also, it creates a playable version. So every epic I create, I still want the game to work. I want it to function, and I want it to be something that people could play. And so each epic is really just an update. And so when I look at it this way, I can make things like this current epic that I'm going to talk about in this development log, which was 0.2. It was 0.2 menus and accessibility. And so my focus was menus and accessibility.